Hello, welcome back to part 2 of service recovery. So we want to look now at the service recovery paradox. So this is customers who experience a service failure. So something's gone wrong and they're dissatisfied. So you think, well, that's bad, right? And it is. But subsequently, they receive excellent service recovery beyond what they expected. So their expectation was not met, so it went below. But then the service recovery is so good that the service then goes above their expectations. And these situations, they may ultimately even be more satisfied than they were before the failure. And this is called the service recovery paradox. And it's an absolutely fascinating thing, and it plays out in many different ways. And there's cool tricks and stuff that you can do with it. But you've got to be very careful, because if there's service failure and you mess up with your service recovery, like expecting this paradox to happen, it can have dramatic impacts to the point where you won't be able to recover your customers and you get damaged. So I'll give you an example for this. When I was building houses, we'd tile the bathrooms and everything would look beautiful, but the very last thing that would happen was you do a silicone seal around the bathroom, right? So when you do a handover, if that was the last thing that happens, if anything goes wrong within the scheduling of the construction project, sometimes you'd be handing a house over and that hadn't happened. So the customers walk into the bathroom and they're horrified. They go, oh no, the bathroom's not finished. You know, there's big gaps in there. And you go, oh look, we know this is not, this is obviously a service failure. We didn't want to cancel the handover. We've got someone coming in there later today or the next day and it's going to get fixed, right? So in their head they go, there's something's gone wrong, but it gets fixed so fast and then it looks so much better than what they expected. They're actually feeling, they're more satisfied than what they were to start with. So that's one example of a service recovery paradox. It's a bit of a light one, more around typical services such as waiters. When you go get your meal and it comes out and you're like, oh, I don't mean to complain, but there's something wrong with my meal, right? And then the chef comes out, oh, I'm so sorry, yes, something's gone wrong, and they fix it, give you a really good meal, and you're like, oh, how good was that? Like, I didn't want to complain, but when I did, they actually made it so, it was easy. They made it so nice for me. They didn't make it awkward, and they gave me, like a extra bottle of wine or whatever it is, to make me feel really special. And that's the service recovery paradox. It's fascinating. So the factors influencing complaining behaviour. So the following variables are related to complaint behaviour. So first of all, the level of dissatisfaction. So some customers get so dissatisfied that no matter what you do, it's like they fall off a ledge. You just can't get them back, right? The personal importance of the service. So like some people getting a haircut's just a haircut. They don't really care. I'm sort of tend towards that. I mean, I want to look good, but I'm not that big into it. Other people, if you mess up their haircut, it's like you've personally insulted them, right? Because that they're so attached to that. The cost of complaining, confrontation. So like the cost is like the psychological cost of it too. So if you've got to complain something like that, it's awkward. It's unpleasant and stuff like that. So that can influence the behaviour as well. We've talked a little bit about that. The benefit to be gained from complaining. Some people just go, well, there's no point in complaining. Like, no, I've done it before. I've raised the issue in the past. I just don't listen. So I just deal with it, right? Access to means of registering a complaint. Who is to blame for the problem? If it's someone's, so if you've got a mate that works at when I say mate, so just say you're working. Just say you're a customer at a service thing. So just say at a cafe, and there's a barista there that you get on quite well with, right? So you've got a friendship going. It's not like you hang out on the weekends, but you like that person. So if they stuff up your coffee and then they do something wrong, you might go, well, I don't want to get them in trouble, right? So whereas if there was a different barista that you didn't know, you would complain, right? So that's where that one comes in. Demographic factors. So complaints tend to be younger, better educated, because they know what happens. Especially people with business degrees, because you know what to expect. You know how businesses work. By the time you graduate, you kind of know a lot more about business than most people. So you understand that by complaining, you're actually providing a service to them and you're helping them improve their business, right? So above average income, and tend to have high self-confidence and positive attitude towards self-activism. All right, so the actual people themselves. All right, how to prevent customers from complaining. Now, steps might that you might implement to reduce the chance of customer failure include, so first of all, collect data on customer failure points. And then you can loop this back into your service blueprint too, all right? And see how you want to be identifying the critical points, collect data on it and see how it's going, and then fix it and then keep collecting data, see if it's been resolved or not. Identify the root cause of failure, a key thing. I don't think it gets done often enough because people just don't have the skills to get into other people's heads. Hopefully, at this stage, you'll be able to do that now, especially if you've done consumer behaviour. Understand what it is that motivates people to do things and then address that. We've got these latent variables and the manifest variables. So the ones that they say may not always be the real reasons or the real motives for them to do their behaviour. Then establish preventative solutions such as redesigning service processes. We're always doing that, trying to improve our service. Implementing technical solutions, educating customers or customer learning, which is becoming a bit of a key theme in services marketing, and then encouraging customer citizenship where they actually feel like they're part of your organisation. They belong to it. All right, let's look at justice theory and service recovery now. So there's some cool research out on this about how justice theories works in with customers complaining and the perception of fairness that goes in with that. So there's different levels of there. So creating a effective service recovery program must be based on the principles and values of articulated at a senior management level. So the dominant perspective centers on justice theories, which is in general concerns perceived fairness of decisions. So we've got the dimensions I was talking about, so the perceived fairness, but also the procedural fairness, how they've treated, and the personal fairness, how they get treated as a person as well. So it's not just the outcome, the fairness of the outcome, it's also the process that you get to the outcome and how they've been treated as an individual, as a person, whether they've been treated fairly or not as well. So those things link together. So this slide, I got ahead of myself, so this slide explains that. So throughout the complaint handling process, we've got the procedure, which I was talking about, the interaction, which is how they get treated as a person. If you're rude to them, they'll perceive that as not being fair, and then the outcome. Now, a lot of people think about the outcome, they go, well, you got a good outcome, what are you complaining about? Like, you should be happy by now, but it's more complex than that. So here we've been the procedural fairness, or fairness relates to procedures and rules that compromise the complaining process that customer has to go through. The interactional justice concerns the behaviour of the firm's representativeness during the complaint resolution process. Open and honest communication, treating them like a human being. Distributive justice, or is the outcome, which and think of the judge then who goes guilty or not guilty, or you're going to serve 5 years or 10 years. That's the distributive justice, where the service fails, customers expect to be compensated for their loss. Furthermore, some expect to be compensated for the inconvenience associated with the failure and have to go through the recovery process. This is where damages come in. So not just the outcome of, so you go, oh look, something's gone wrong, and we're going to use the example of a meal at a restaurant. You go, there's something wrong with my meal. Then they go, well, we expect a new meal, right? Because that would be fair. But then some people go, well, I don't just expect a new meal. Like, I can't eat now, everyone else is eating. This is unpleasant for me. I expect not only a new meal, but some kind of extra benefit to account for the point that I've been inconvenienced and had to complain as well. Alright, so let's look at the service recovery process. So this is a crucial element in achieving a dissatisfied a customer. Things eventually go wrong in every organisation to the extent that affects its relationships with its customers. So after calming the customer down, and you've got to do that in a fair way, like an empathy way. Don't just go, calm down, like, because that's being obnoxious, and customers hate that. So the customers, they won't redress. So they need to calm down from a highly excited motivational state. You want to try to get them back to that cognitive state where they can rationally think again and be logical. A true test of an organisation's commitment to the client satisfaction and service quality does not depend on the advertising or the promises that we make, but how it responds when things go wrong in service failure and our service recovery processes. So informal observation suggests that the response of some firms does not always match the rhetoric or advertised service promises. Some service recovery means that when you inadvertently break your service promise, which we do, you need a plan for putting things right again. And you'll be surprised, like when I'm telling you this, you're going to think, yeah, that makes sense, of course. You do this in business, but you'd be surprised how many businesses don't do that. And I know it firsthand because I've worked in many construction businesses where we don't do this. We just expect, we plan for everything to go right, and we aim for that, which is good. But we don't actually plan for when things do go wrong. All right. Here we have the components of an effective service recovery system. So it starts with doing job right the first time. Do it right the first time, every time, right? So that makes sense, The best way to keep your customers happy is not to do anything wrong in the first place, but it's unrealistic, as we've talked about. So then we have this effective complaint handling. And together that equals increased satisfaction and loyalty. So this effective complaint handling, let's look at that. So first of all, you identify service complaints, and we do this through conducting research, market research, which you probably haven't done yet, but we'll be doing that next, coming up shortly. Monitor complaints, develop complaints as an opportunity culture. So that comes from us as senior managers then. So when people complain, we train our staff not to see complaints as a personal attack against them or something that we try to minimise as much as possible. If something goes wrong, we want our customers to feel like they can express their attitudes towards us. Resolve complaints effectively, so develop effective systems and training in complaints handling, and that also includes empowering our staff to give them the autonomy to make decisions. And we've looked at that before with our different models where we've got exceptions and stuff like that. When something goes wrong and our staff feel confident enough and are trained enough to realise, I need to make an exception here to get a service recovery and bring things back to the way they're supposed to be. And then learn from the recovery experience, so loop it back through our continual improvement processes, conduct root cause analysis, and fix the problem so it doesn't keep happening. All right, now this is the last slide. So developing an effective service recovery process. So for it to be effective, we need top management commitment, which is why we're teaching it to you guys. When you're running organisations, you need to be committed to this for it to work. Because if you just expect your staff to do it, you go, oh yeah, do a service recovery process, no worries, and then they go, oh, we need money to train, we need to send our frontline staff on training for service recovery. Then you as the top line managers, the top management are going, oh look, we don't have a lot of training budget this year, blah, blah, blah. No, you need to commit to it. If you want to keep happy customers, you need to know that there needs to be some kind of organisational commitment to it, like from the top, and that means allocating resources to it. So your own resources into asking what's going on and showing that you care about it, but then also making resources available to your staff so that they can train frontline or boundary spanners, like the people that are talking to their customers, in a way that they can do this properly. Develop complaints as an opportunity culture. Again, culture comes from the top, from the leaders. So if we see complaints as bad, our staff are likely to start seeing complaints as bad, and then people are going to start to think that they're going to make the business better by reducing complaints, by making it more difficult for people to complain, which is such a dumb way to go. Training and empowerment. Now this costs money and effort, right? But the benefit that you get, so you can understand why when businesses are tight, they try and cut back on this stuff, but then you end up with these problems, right? You end up with dissatisfied customers, and because you've been cutting back on training and empowering your staff, then you end up with dissatisfied customers, and you start losing business. So there's a balance. There's a point where you can do too much training that becomes ineffective, but if you're doing no training, you're asking for trouble. Ownership of the complaint, and you could go, oh, something's going wrong, we're just going to try to sweep this under the rug or hide it and pretend it doesn't exist. That's bad too. So you just go, look, we've made a mistake, we're just going to try and fix this as best we can, please bear with us, we don't know what's going wrong. Just be open and honest with them, and customers will appreciate that. I mean, they're human beings too, they've made mistakes as well, so if you can show that, it's going to make a big difference. Service recovery tactics. Act fast. Show that you care, right? If you go, oh look, it's your problem, not mine. Well, wrong. It's really your problem more than theirs, because it's your business. You want more. You want to keep your customers. So, yeah. So apologise, but don't be defensive. When people complain, often it feels like an attack on us. So it's a natural human response to go, oh, hang on, you get defensive. Oh yeah, but we were doing this, and it wasn't our fault because of this and this and this. So you're actually defending the mistake. You just go, look, I'm sorry something's happened. We're not sure why. We need to work out, look into it. Let us look into it. Don't defend the mistake by coming up with excuses and reasons for it on the spot. Don't argue with the customers. You just got to get to the point where you like, it can be tempting when they, like some customers are trying to get at you and they're emotional, so we get emotional too. So you just got to, and this is where the training comes in, you just, calm down and as soon as you start arguing, it becomes a them versus us thing, and then it's going to be so much harder to recover. Acknowledge the customer's feelings. This works because we talked before about getting in customers' heads. If they are lodging a complaint, if they're emotional, and we're like, look, sorry, the procedure says this and this and this, they feel like they're not being cared about, or you don't care about their feelings, or they're irrelevant to you. So you go, look, I can see that you're upset. So make some kind of acknowledgement. You go, we don't want you to be upset. We want to resolve this. Like, if you don't want to resolve it, don't say that, of course. But hopefully by now you realise that it's important to resolve it, so you do want to resolve it. So you acknowledge their feelings, make them feel like a valued human being. And even if they're not valued customers, you still treat them as human beings, right? Because remember we talked about customer profitability and different customer values. So some people tend to take away from that, if they're not valuable customers, I can treat them like garbage. But that's not true, because they're still people, right? So we still need to treat them with love and respect and go, look, just understand that when it comes to organising our organisational resources, that we don't give more than what we should be. Keep customers informed of progress. If something does go wrong and they're fixing it, but you don't know, you're still in the same emotional state as when you when you complained in the first place. So by keeping customers informed, then you can manage their expectations and their emotional states as well, and then consider compensation as you do. And it's a difficult place to be, but sometimes you just have to pony up and pay and learn from it. All right, so that's the end of this week's lecture series, and indeed the end of the lecture series for this unit. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. Hope you've learned a lot out of this, and if you have any questions or queries, please do not hesitate to contact me.